Hey guys, this one's going to be a really quick one, right? In terms of what I've just posted in the visitor section. This is to do with the CVD kind of indicators in general, right? And the one thing that I found interesting this morning, right? So if you go up to the subscriber section, right on the bottom of the subscriber section, we've actually got the delta indicator and the footprint indicator. So this was put together by Peter Hammond. And this is what I've been looking at, right? When we were using ChatGPT and talking about things we talked about in the prop firm channel, one of the things that I found really interesting was the delta itself, right? So, as I've explained in the past, right, this year for me is kind of a nothingness, right? This going back, from the inception of Bitcoin through to the end of 2017, early 2018. What I was seeing, in kind of investment world was kind of buzzword bingo, right? It was, people looking for blockchain, people looking for, crypto, Bitcoin. And these buzzwords, they evolve every couple of years, I mean, going back to 2011, 2014, everything was fintech, it was digital disruption. We were talking about big data and data farming and so on. And as things obviously progress, you start thinking of things like crypto, NFTs become some kind of buzzword. AI is probably the newest and the greatest in terms of the biggest buzzword, right? So I think when you put these kind of pictures together, for me, looking back at this point, it's kind of a nothingness. Right? The delta kind of starts after the sell-off. So the first sell-off for me, and this is why I think the main play for me was a one followed by a two, right? Then we talked back in 2021, kind of throughout the server, about some options of whether this was a move that looked something like this, whether we had a one, a two, a three, four, and a five, right? Which potentially put us as a larger scale one, right? That's a pretty obvious position to be in. Another option was that we actually had this inside. We had a maybe a three followed by a three followed by a potential four. This kind of invalidates part of the move, but it could be, right? So anyway, the point being is I don't really mind whether this is a one, a three, or a five, right? It kind of makes no difference for the delta. It's just more the fact that what we've done on the zigzag side of this, right? So what you notice on the sell-off was quite, I mean, it would be brilliant to get this number, whatever this was up here in terms of the buy. But the sell-off obviously was a lot of profit taking by the kind of the investment community, whales, early adopters, and so on, rather than traders, right? So it wasn't for me until probably after this time. So this is kind of now 2019 that the kind of the market settled a little bit, right? The dust had settled, and ultimately it was kind of a tradable asset rather than an investable asset, right? Then obviously we had this kind of mega rally, and this was the first kind of area of interest for me in terms of the delta. The fact that this hit over 1 million in terms of the delta figure, right? So this is basically buying pressure, buying interest, kind of really squeezing out all of the shorts, the sells. So this was obviously a lot of interest, kind of a hot topic. And going back to the buzzword bingo, this was obviously a lot of interest, right? Then we had this kind of massive sell-off. I don't think this was a lack of interest because retail are kind of still keen on this overall. I think this was just pure profit taking, right? Which brings me to the point of where we are right now in the bigger move, right? If this is profit taking and we've seen this as a potential one, I've zoomed out on the chart to a 3 monthly chart with the view of saying, well, we've come down and we've come back up, which means an A and a B, right? Now, I've talked about this, and again, I keep saying no change, no change, no change, because since talking about the worst case scenario, this was the worst case scenario, this is the worst case scenario, and this puts us right back in a kind of a tricky situation. In 19 days' time, we go into potentially overbought territory, right? We've had 1 million on the delta positive here, and only 600,000 here, right? As we've rallied on up, look at the number difference right? This is increasing slowly, 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 but it's nowhere near this level, right? Which means when you combine this with COT, we know that the big boys are selling. We know that the retail are buying. Right? We've got retail hoping for the moon, and we've actually got an overbought 3 monthly stochastic coming into play. For me, this is just reaffirming the fact that this is more likely a B than anything else, rather than this being an impulsive move or anything else, right? It just shows almost a lack of interest, which is ironic given we've had 12 ETF approves, right? As well as the halving and people talking about this price multiplier, right? So what I want to do, I'm going to cover a little bit more of this in the next couple of streams. I just wanted to put this out today as a, just kind of adding to what I put in the visitor section. And I think it's definitely worth a look. So if you haven't got the indicators, go get them obviously in the subscriber section. And then obviously any questions, please feel free to put them in. Probably the technical question section is probably the best for this. And let's have a few conversations on this. So I hope this makes sense. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.